Let's do a game theory, FNAF style. Today we're going to be talking about how Elizabeth Afton died before the crying child. First piece of evidence I'd like to submit today comes from FNAF 6. The evidence is that Purple Guy isn't purple yet, which means that something had to happen to make Purple Guy purple. In FNAF 4, 1983, when the crying child would have died, the Purple Guy is already purple. We can see him putting the Spring Bonnie suit onto another character as Purple Guy. Taking into account that William Afton is not yet purple but yet visiting a grave, seems to take into account that he has one dead child before becoming purple. Also in FNAF 6, we can compare to FNAF 4 that William Afton's wife, Mrs. Afton, has not left the picture yet. However, in FNAF 4, he has to use a nanny cam and his older child to babysit because there's not a second adult around, putting this earlier in the timeline. Taking into account that Circus Baby is the reason for Elizabeth Afton's death, and the fact that Elizabeth Afton's room is already empty in FNAF 4, we can safely assume that Mangle is not Mangle in her room, but Funtime Foxy, taken apart. The next few pieces of evidence I have to submit are from FNAF 5, or Sister Location. The first one being that you can clearly hear Circus Baby saying 1, 5, 7, 8. And though these numbers are highly speculated on within the community, nobody has found certain directive from the lore on where this piece of information belongs. And the second piece would be that there are several interactions between Elizabeth Afton and William Afton during this time. I would like to ask you where they would have been when she was coming up to her father. Obviously in front of a computer screen, where she would have been able to clearly see the date and read it in a child's manner. 1, 5, 7, 8. Within the game of Sister Location, or FNAF 5, I would also like to point out that the blueprints for the animatronics held children with inside their stomachs. Now, many of you already know this, but what you haven't noticed is that the child is huddled, holding a tensed state. And one thing a dead body can't do is hold a continued tensed state. This means that William Afton was not trying to collect dead children, rather surpass Henry, his rival, in robotics. He was trying to create a robot that would safely scoop up a child and bring them right back to their parents, using ice cream to first calm them down. Finally, staying within the realm of FNAF 5 Sister Location, we can see that all the maps of the house from FNAF 4 are connected to the underground layer of Circus Baby's Pizzeria. Given all of the previous evidence, I would like to submit my story on what really happened to Elizabeth Afton. We start with William Afton working his fingers to the bone trying to surpass his rival Henry in robotics, and finally coming up with a skeletal structure for an animatronic that would be movable, would have fluidity, instead of being a much more robotic form. This, however, would not be enough to simply surpass Henry. It would match him, maybe even give a little bit of a tinge of difference, but it would not really stick it to him. How would he do that? William decides to design a robot that could easily protect the children by scooping them up and taking them back to their parents. How would they get the child to calm down, though, in order to be scooped up safely without causing a ruckus? Well, he'd give them ice cream. Circus Baby's unique design was to give the child ice cream and then to simply scoop them up. However, Circus Baby was still in testing phase, and he had told his daughter Elizabeth that he was modeling this particular robot after her day after day as she watched the days tick down on her father's computer. One fateful day she was tired of waiting. She would ask her father once again, knowing that the pizzeria was soon to open, and look at the date on her father's computer. 1, 5, 7, 8, her child's mind read, as her father told her once again that Circus Baby was not yet ready, and she would have to still wait. Elizabeth Afton was not happy with this. Elizabeth Afton made her way through the pizzeria where she had been told she was not allowed to go. Yet, as she approached Circus Baby's protocol went into function. The AI perceived the child as parentless and unsafe, offered her an ice cream to calm her down. Elizabeth Afton would reach out, grab the ice cream, with joy and loved the robot that her father had made for her. And then the AI would function into grabbing the child and scooping her up. However, the robot had not been finitely programmed yet nor tested, and would end up killing Elizabeth Afton with its strong claw. When William Afton had realized that his daughter had gone missing, he frantically searched the house and then the pizzeria for his child, only to find a bloodied circus baby with green eyes instead of blue as he had programmed her. This signaled to William Afton that there was something left inside of Circus Baby, some kind of remnant of his daughter, Elizabeth Afton, and not willing to let go as a grieving father, he would move and have a new home built, closing down Circus Baby's Pizza World and moving the entire location to a secret laboratory underneath his home in order to study and figure out if he could find some piece of his daughter left within the robot that he had not intended to kill but to protect her. He would go to the grave site, visit her grave, her single grave, and then go to a nearby drinking hole, where eventually he drove up one day too drunk to even park his car and was asked to leave because of his inebriation. In a depressive state, he went down to the laboratory where Circus Baby's Pizza World was, went to the scooping room, and scooped himself in order to end the suffering that he had felt from losing his child to his own hands, to an accidental programming malfunction. The only problem with this is that William Afton did not die. He stayed alive, his bones now metallic, and his skin rotting off of his bones, turning purple, and his flesh would start to rot and stink. He didn't think his wife could love him like that or his family could stand to see him like that. So he builds nanny cams to protect his children, so that way he can watch them from afar. Being left to her own devices, his wife leaves. He fights for custody of the children and wins. But is that enough? Or does that lead to the tragedy of the Bite of 83?